Get in the know. Nonstop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
Daniil is still in contract, but you never know what they're going to do with that. You just signed Z to a nice contract, and those are 3-4 guys. Daniil is technically a 4-3 guy, but they kind of made him into a stand-up. But anywho, I think it has to be a 3-4 scheme. Just aggressive, just being aggressive, forcing offenses to change their hand, being more of the guy, being more of the defense that's, pressing the issue versus, sitting back and relaxing.
Amen. Can Patrick Peterson can they just bring him back as a defensive coordinator? Has anyone ever been the coordinator and the starting cornerback on the same NFL team? Can you make that happen?
But hold on a second. They just played a 3-4 base scheme that was among the most passive I've seen. So it doesn't have to be a 3-4. It needs to be aggressive. He can drop the scheme terminology.
Yeah, I think he said the word aggressive about 15 times in that 30-second clip, I feel like. So
right, but he thinks a 3-4 is aggressive, and I would challenge him to say, you played the entire season, right? Like you watched the film of your defense, right? It was as unaggressive as it gets. So let's not pretend like the 3-4 is this magic elixir to aggressiveness, Patrick.
Yeah, like you said, any scheme can be aggressive or not. We've seen various 4-3 defenses in the history of this franchise that sat back in a cover 2 shell and didn't play press coverage. So Patrick Peterson on his podcast, All Things Covered. This is Purple Daily, where we have all things covered for the Vikings off season on a daily basis with bonus episodes sprinkled in. There's just so many things to get into. I think it's been fun. A lot of the new listeners and viewers that have jumped on board over the last year or two, I think maybe you get used to the season's over and you exhale as a fan and, oh, man, that sucked. I guess we'll be back during training camp. No. This is the 6 to 8 week period from now. And even if you want to include the draft, it's like a 4-month period where everything that's going to happen for next year's team percolates now. And we've got you covered every single day. We're going to get into some reckless speculation here on this Reckless Speculation Thursday across Score North.
Speculation.
Presented by our friends at TCL. Redefine creativity with the TCL 30V 5G smartphone. Enjoy blazing fast 5G speed and AI-powered 50-megapixel triple camera system. Ultra-realistic, true-to-life visuals powered by Next Vision and booming sound from the dual speakers. Learn more at TCL.com. And cheers to the off-season from our friends at Surly Brewing Company.
There's 2 things that don't stop. One is football. As Phil just said, the National Football League does not stop. There is something going on all the time. The second thing that does not stop, that is Surly Brewing. Because you know what? Before I Die, spoke to a mission that remains very much alive for the Vikings, but that doesn't mean that the mission has stopped. In fact, Surly Brewing is the perfect beer for football, basketball, hockey, baseball. I don't care. Any season is a great time for a Surly. And as always, show us your cans.
Show us those cans. That's right. So there's kind of 2 ways to start this conversation. Let me set it up this way. We've spent a lot of time here in the last week and a half, or 2 weeks, whatever, since the season ended, talking about all the things the Vikings need to do to retool, right? That they're kind of the offense is kind of ready to rock, although they don't really have a quarterback of the future. The defense needs to be rebuilt. And so we've spent a lot of time. How do you clear guys out? I think we're more interested in, what does the 3-year window look like as you build around Jefferson, Darisaw? What does this look like long-term from now until, 2028? But this is a team that won 13 games last year, as fraudulent as they may have been, right? Maybe they were a 10-win team that got lucky 3 different times or something. But this is a 13-win team with the best wide receiver in the NFL, with 2 of the best offensive tackles right now in the NFL, and a top 12-ish quarterback that's coming off an NFL record-tying 8 fourth-quarter comebacks. He largely had a really good season in high-leverage moments. The division is still very much up for grabs. Aaron Rodgers, by the way, the Jets just hired Nathaniel Hackett to be their offensive coordinator. Aaron Rodgers loves Nathaniel Hackett. The Jets are planting the hook, right? They're setting the hook to bring Rodgers from Green Bay to New York. Should the Vikings consider just throttling into 2023. Jalen Ramsey is reportedly available for trade, for instance. Declan found an article that the Rams are looking at their situation. They won a handful of games. They sold their salary cap soul to the devil to win a Super Bowl, and now they have to pay the price and strip their roster down. Jalen Ramsey, 28 years old, one more year of guaranteed money, so you'd have to redo his contract. He was, according to Pro Football Focus, the third highest graded cornerback in the NFL behind Sauce Gardner and Patrick Surtain. Patrick Peterson was 9th. I mean, is there a case to be made that Patrick Peterson's still awesome? Go trade for Jalen Ramsey? Swap out your old linebackers for Brian Asamoah and a faster, to go further into this thing in 2023?
Boy. I see what you're saying. I don't think so because of this. I don't think Patrick Peterson, I think that when you compare him to the Vikings corners opposite him, until you got to the Duke of Shelley, I think Patrick Peterson was often stayed away from or looked good, but then in the Giants game got pretty exposed. Jalen Ramsey is a very good player, but are the Vikings ready to hit the ground running in 2024 to the point where you would be willing to give up the compensation that would be required? And my feeling is this. I appreciate what the Vikings did this year, and I do think that the Vikings had a nice team. They were obviously not as good as 13 wins. But if we're going to go, to quote Kwesi, when Kwesi used to speak, if we're going to go full Rams, I struggle with that because I think that has a chance to absolutely implode because of the age of the players that you would be going full Rams with, if that makes sense. Like my inclination is this. You are coming closer and closer to moving on from a lot of your veteran players immediately, and you're also very close to moving on from Kirk. And that is, by the way, that's not Kirk hate. That's just Kirk age. And so I think that the smart play here is not going full Rams. I think the smart play is, yes, don't make dumb moves to get bad because they're not going to. It's that simple. But I am all for keeping your draft picks. I'm all for going young as possible with quality players, hopefully through the draft. I'm all for signing a free agent or two coming out of their first contract. So I get that it would be exciting. I get that it might be fun, but I think, Phil, to go back to what you said, which is, I think what this show is most intrigued about is the 3 to potential 5 year, but certainly the 3-year window. I think the risk of making the moves it would take to go full Rams in 2023 is too great.
So I think the only issue that I have is they don't really have, in my opinion, a lot of picks in this year's draft to go full Rams. So they don't have those mid picks. You have a late first. Sure, you could probably mortgage next year's draft class, right? Like if you wanted to, you can get more creative there, and you could leverage some of those high picks in a years from now's draft. But it's going to be really tough for me to do that. That being said, if I can pluck some players away here from the Rams, especially in someone like Jalen Ramsey, who is one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, I'm in on that idea. They don't really have a solidified, legitimate cornerback. I know Pat B had a career year, but none of us saw that coming. No one saw Patrick Peterson going from average QB, who clearly was on the decline from his potential Hall of Fame career in Arizona, to rising back to being a top 10 corner. And with his age, it's probably too much of an assumption to assume he can repeat that. But Jalen Ramsey, on the other hand, one of the best cornerbacks, significantly younger than Pat P, I am in on that idea. But going full Rams, I think at this point, it's tough. There's similarities for sure between the two of them going full Rams, but I don't think the Vikings are positioned right now to go full Rams.
Well, let's talk through some of this, all right? Because full Rams versus, let me be specific for you guys. So you can just get an idea of what's possible. Let me clear my throat here because this is going to be a really important discussion. Okay, thank you. Let's say it would be, because again, Jalen Ramsey is still in his prime. I think he's kind of at that age now, 20, just like Danielle Hunter, like 28 years old. You may not think it's old, but in NFL terms, your speed declines essentially incrementally every year once you get past like 22, 23. Like your straight line speed starts to decline throughout your 20s. So, but there's maybe a year or two left of high level play from Jalen. It's probably a first round pick. You probably have to trade your 23rd pick. Would you guys fight that at all for one of the top 5 cornerbacks in the NFL?
Yes.
I don't think I would.
Do it.
I would do it.
I'm asking his value.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not asking if
just
you
his
would
value.
do it. I'm asking that it's a
yes.
first
I think they'd
round
want
value,
at least
right?
a first round pick, and I think they'd probably want a first and like a third.
Okay, so let's call it a first and something.
Okay.
So I think if you did that, you would probably then also bring Patrick Peterson back because he played at a high level. He's older, but you'd probably if you're gonna trade for Jalen Ramsey, you might just say, all right, let's bring Pat P back because we don't have any sure things unless you think Cam Dantzler took a step back.
Yes.
The way the season ended was kind of weird. I think he just goes to being a depth cornerback for you. He was a 3rd round pick. So those are your starting cornerbacks. I think then you would extend Danielle Hunter for like 3 big seasons, 28, 29, 30.
Yep.
And I think you would restructure Harrison Smith to keep him around with Jalen Ramsey, all-star, secondary. And you would smooth some of that cap hit out, reduce it for 2022 or for 23 and into the future. Mm-hmm. But you would still say goodbye to Hicks, Kendricks, Thielen. I think you'd also say goodbye to Dalvin Cook. So you could make some room salary-wise for Jalen Ramsey, Daniel extension. Maybe you can get some draft pick value for Dalvin Cook. Maybe someone trades a 4th or a 3rd round pick or something for him. So you got to figure out who your center is going to be because Garrett Bradbury is a free agent. And there's, if you got rid of Thielen, is KJ Osborne your number 2? Would you go sign a number 2 with remaining free agent money? But your team, the pillars on your team then, if you did this, now you'd be without your 1st round pick, and you might even have to give up a 3rd round pick. So you'd basically be without draft picks for the first 2 days of 2023. But you would go into the 2023 season with Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, Christian Darrisaw, Brian O'Neill, offensive pillars, and Kevin O'Connell. And your defensive pillars would be Jalen Ramsey, Patrick Peterson, Harrison Smith. Those 2 guys are still good. Maybe they're not the same players. Right. Danielle Hunter, Dalvin Tomlinson, Harrison Phillips, and then a couple like Brian Asamoah and another speedier young linebacker. What could you – I know you're shaking your head.
I'm totally out on this.
What would you do again? I mean, it's a first place schedule, so you might not win as many games, but those are – I just named like 9 very good billboard pillars for your football team.
And it sounds like a great idea in the world of like big name fantasy football. But don't forget, Jalen Ramsey is on the hook. His cap hit for 2023 is $25 million. Okay.
But his guaranteed salary is only 5. And so I think you're at kind of a point where you'd have to redo the contract. So.
I am interested in getting younger and faster on defense ASAP. The rebuilding of the defense to me is not trying to keep older players or acquire them. I want younger players. I would be absolutely fine if the Vikings sign a cornerback coming out of his first contract who is good, but not like a household name. Household names in this league scare me because they're often moved for a reason, which is why
Patrick Mahomes scare you?
which is why, well, you know what? In the day he gets moved, I'll be like, why are the Chiefs willing to move him? But this is why I was all in on the idea back in, I think it was 2019, of trading for, at that time when Jacksonville was dealing him, Jalen Ramsey. Because that was just a straight falling out with a young player at the time who was still really, really good. If the Vikings were ever going to have gone full Rams, as we now say, thank you, Kwesi. I appreciate the days when you did talk because you said fun stuff. I miss you. Rams. I miss you, Kwesi. Please come back. Please come back. But if the Vikings were ever going to have gone full Rams, let's say in the past 5 or 6 years, 2019 was that year. The Zimmer thing, you had Kirk, you still had some very viable players. When the second that Spielman and Zimmer, but especially Spielman, realized that Kirk was not the magic fix, the magic man to a Super Bowl, which they certainly did in 2018, that's when in 19, I would have mortgaged things for Jalen Ramsey to plug him into, at the time, what was a hell of a defense. And now you got a Pro Bowl cornerback. I don't think the timing is right here. And I do think that doing what we're talking about right now for 2023 would be pushing your luck in a really bad way and saying, you know what, 13 wins wasn't a fluke. We can get back. Like, you got to be very careful here. You all deserve credit. You all did a great job. You won 13 games. So I'm not going to debate that. But, Phil, we've been going through this roster with a fine-tooth comb since the day the season came to an end, because that's what we like to do here. But that being said, I don't think it would be prudent to now say, let's double down. And like you just said, extend Daniil, because you're right about that. Or redo Harrison Smith. I think the defense needs to be rebuilt, not with household names, but with young players who can, as Patrick Peterson said, be aggressive and swarm to the damn football.
So here's the issue, though, with that. The pillars that are established here that Phil kind of laid out, the Jeffersons, your two tackles, TJ Hawkinson, you have an offensive weapon, an offensive base that is pretty much set, turnkey, ready to go. You can flip it and go, and you're going to be pretty set there. But on defense, you're betting that entry-level guys and guys who are unproven are going to step in and make you faster, which I don't disagree with you there, but they have whiffed, and I know it's previous regimes, whiffed on developing a whole era of defensive players. They haven't developed a legitimate defensive player out of the draft since basically the Kendricks, Daniil draft, et cetera, in 2015. They have whiffed. So you have to mortgage of, yes, it might be a safer bet, obviously not to bleep those picks, as other people like to say. I think Les Snead said that. But could you maybe get the established players? That's the sure thing. And plug and play guys like Jalen Ramsey. Plug and play guys that can make you better on defense, because you can't turn it over in a year and all of a sudden they're a top 10 defense. Can you plug in one or two guys and make yourself better on that defensive side of the ball while your offense is still humming and clicking?
That sounds great. Beware of the established player in football.
The decline I am going into this exercise eyes wide open with the ages of these players. Like, Patrick Peterson could just be awful next year.
Yeah.
Harrison Smith could miss 10 games because of plantar fasciitis or something. Like, weird things happen once you get past the age of 28 in the NFL.
Yep.
Now, to Declan's point, yeah, like what for just this upcoming season, based on the last 7 seasons of Vikings draft picks, 2 different front offices, what has a better chance of contributing? A 28-year-old Jalen Ramsey or whoever you would draft in the first round? Maybe you draft a cornerback, right? That's where all the mockers have the Vikings going. But to continue to take chips off of future tables, draft picks and young players, to continue to push forward with this nucleus that involves a 35-year-old quarterback and 28 to 34-year-old defenders. I wouldn't do this, but I can see how the Wolves might try to convince the front office that being more aggressive and pushing even more chips onto a 13-win table is the way to go. I think if it was between trade your first-round pick for Jalen Ramsey or blow most of it up and kind of take a step back, I think ownership would say, let's keep forging ahead.
So Dex brings up an interesting point that would be a massive problem if that is the way that the Vikings see it, which is the failures of the previous regimes, the late Spielman drafts defensively, and then importantly, Quay's first draft. If you're going to say, well, you know what, we can't develop guys, you got another huge problem. Like, if that's your stance, I am willing to
I don't
give.
think that's their stance.
But I'm saying, right? No, but I'm saying that Dex's point is that they have failed over the course of several years now to develop defensive draft picks. That can't be we're going to go trade for Jalen Ramsey because we can't find one. That was how Spielman got Cousins. He basically said, I can't find a quarterback. So I think we're all, well, not all. I think this show is willing to give Kwesi some latitude with his 2021 draft or two draft, his first draft.
Yeah.
But if you're going to say, oh yeah, we're failing to draft defensive guys, That's a real problem.
Yeah.
The second thing is this. I think the come to Jesus discussion at TCL about the future of this team and basically the process of trying to build it should be this one. Okay. You're going to need to create some salary cap room. You just do. You got a lot of veteran guys. We've gone through the entire list, but it's not that tough to create some room. This is why I would go in on my big free agent signing would be a cornerback who's about 24, 25. And what I would say is, Kevin, we are going to prioritize a lot of times this year, the draft, the first round for an offensive player.
Jordan Addison.
Yes, because we think, no, you know what, Kevin? We know that we hired you because your expertise is there. And flat out, like now, it's the reverse of the Zim years. What you want is you want your offense to be your calling card, which it should be. It's 2023. And your defense to be solid. Doesn't need to be top 10. Can it be top 15?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think there needs to be a seismic shift, at least in our thinking, of what they should do.
So you're kind of saying, well, and I'll even broaden it out and say, for you, whether you trade for Jalen Ramsey or not, you have 53 slots on your roster. You can't just trade draft picks to fill out a 53-man roster. You're going to need like 30 dudes to pop up on inexpensive contracts. You're going to have to hit on the fifth rounders, the Stephon Diggs. Like, they did such a great job of that early in Mike Zimmer's tenure with Rick Spielman. Think about the value that they had. They're finding Danielle Hunter in the mid rounds. They found, even before that, Everson Griffin was like a third or a fourth round pick. They found Brian Robinson in like the fifth round. The Vikings for a long time, for like 10 years.
Yep.
Kendricks was like a second round pick. They're finding these guys that don't make any money because they're not high first round picks. And lately they have found almost none of those players. So you do need, like, you have to be good in the draft, whether you're going full Rams or not. Like, fifth round picks have to be starters for you in the NFL. There's just too many roster spots. But what you're saying is you got limited draft assets this year. You give one pick in the first 90 unless you make some trades. Kevin O'Connell has a better chance of developing an offensive player, a wide receiver. So just go find a guy that's been in the league for 5 years via free agency to plug your cornerback problem, right? Like, find someone that already knows what they're doing.
Yes.
Because you don't even know who your defensive staff is right now. You like don't have a defensive coaching. Well, you're not going to get rid of all your assistants, but like when you bring in a new coordinator, now all these guys are going to have to reconnect with the players and meet them for the first time. And yeah, I think I'm liking this angle.
And think about the amount of times that free agency has been used wisely by teams in signing a player who's coming out of a first contract to a big but not massive contract. And we're not like, I know who that guy is. That guy's fantastic. We're like, interesting. And then if you hit, you now have, and this is the one thing that Spielman had 100% right. I think it disintegrated a bit, but he was right. When I covered the team, his whole thing was, I want to sign guys coming out of their first contracts because their prime years are the second contract.
Yes.
So like by the time you get to 28, 29, you might be a huge name, but you're disintegrating. When you're 24, 25, that's when you're taking off.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've always agreed with the philosophy that if you are going to take a shot, do it with a guy coming out of his first contract, even though he might not be as big a name as Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah. Well, Antoine Winfield wasn't really a big name, but he played a few years in Buffalo and then all of a sudden becomes one of the greatest Vikings of all time. Steve Hutchinson, I guess, probably fell into that category. It wasn't that he was coming off his rookie contract in Seattle, I think. Or maybe
I don't remember on that.
A little older. Dude,
yes, that's right theory.
The 2000, I know that we continue to say we're going to give Kwesi he gets a pass on the 22 draft class for now, right? But when you look at it, they made 10 picks.
Yeah.
Only one of those guys played like significant starter time. And he was one of the worst starting guards in the entire league. Yep. He helped shipwreck you in games at Ingram.
Yep. And you got nothing from any, like you didn't, in the fourth round or fifth round on, you didn't even trust guys enough to play them.
Yeah. And then the previous draft class, of which one of the first things they did was just cut like all the third round picks. Kellen Mond gone, Chaz Surratt gone, Wyatt Davis gone. Patrick Jones didn't fare all that well in this defensive system.
Right.
So I don't know how you can. He looks like a player. I don't know how you unlock him more. Maybe a new system, just better coaching. They nailed Darisaw in 2021. So they found a franchise left tackle. But and what they make 13 picks that year. So they've made 23 picks over the last 2 years, something like that. Home run on one. I think Wangwu as a kick returner, but he helps you like 3 times a game, maybe not even once a game sometimes.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
So he barely counts. Cam Bynum as a 4th round pick he's been a starting player for you. He's been up and down. He's kind of just a guy, but like, okay, they hit on Cam Bynum. That's pretty much it in terms of positive contributors from the last 2 drafts. They're like 2 for 23.
Yeah,
that kills you. It
absolutely.
It's just, that's why, and that's also why you don't look at, like, you look at a Kendricks maybe last year and you say, boy, if we had someone ready to step in, like at least they think they have Asamoah now, and he's barely played, so it's hard to know for sure. But if you don't have a guy that's kind of knocking on the door, hey, he's performing, it makes you hang on to Kendricks next year. It makes you go get a 30-year-old Jordan Hicks and pay him a few $1 million, right? And now you're getting older and slower.
And your draft picks don't necessarily need to start. Like, I think we fall in love with he became a starter. Okay, that's great. 1st round picks can, 2nd round picks can. But what your draft picks need to do, because, I mean, we see this with every single team, including the best teams, is they need to make up for the attrition of the season. So like the Chiefs have a 7th round running back play for them now because they've had attrition, because guys get hurt. So like the real question is, do you have guys who by, I don't know, November, December, that you can just plug and play now? Because at some point in time, you're a rookie and you're a draft pick, but you've been practicing. Yeah. Like you should be up to speed. And that's the thing that the Vikings don't like. How do more of these guys not play? I'll give you one that's probably a combination of the kid, but more so, I think, coaching. How was Brian Asamoah's season high in snaps the Christmas Eve game against the Giants? It was 27.
Yeah.
How is that not 40? How is that like did Jordan?
Because you're placating to veteran leaders. That's why.
That's another.
You guys see this in hockey all the time. This type of stuff happens in hockey all the time.
All the time.
He's got the C on his jersey.
Yeah.
Okay, but he skates in quicksand and hasn't scored a goal in 3 months.
Pisses me off.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Before Asamoah suffered that concussion in the playoff game, to watch them kowtow to especially Jordan Hicks, it drives me nuts.
And then you watch the 49ers and a guy like Fred Warner, who was a mid-round pick. He was like a 3rd-round pick. And I get that he's one of the 5 best linebackers in the NFL, but you're expected, okay, so the 49ers not only have these ridiculous skill position players and a Hall of Fame left tackle, which the Vikings might at some point too. On defense, they've got linebackers that can run 30 yards step for step with CeeDee Lamb. And the Vikings have linebackers that literally can't catch Daniel Jones running, for 3 hours across the field every which direction. Yeah. They can't keep up with running backs or tight ends. And those are the things that pretty much create the gap between the top teams in the league and where the Vikings were, despite the fact that they won 13 games. Speed was a huge one.
I just think that loyalty in football is absolute death to a certain point.
Yeah. You can't hide it. In baseball, you might be able to hide Derek Jeter for a couple years because, he's only going to come to bat like 4 times.
Right.
You got 8 other guys in the lineup, and maybe we DH him today. We kind of reduce his role and he still gets out there. Yeah. You can't do that with Eric Kendricks. You could, like, to your point, you could just play him for 15 snaps, but if you're going to do that, why play him at all?
Right. Yeah.
So
get him off the cap.
Yeah.
Is what you do.
And they probably will wind up doing that. I do have a very special mock for you guys coming up here, but a shout out to our friends at Livia, helping change lives. Purple Daily listeners been losing weight for about a year and a half now, thanks to the lead that Judd has taken.
That's right. And a year plus ago now, I started on the program, dropped 40 pounds. Look at the guy on the left, a little bit chunky, right? Got the beard going. He's got a
So
little
you're
bit
trying to hide
chunky.
your fat with like
Yep.
the scarf and the
Exactly right.
four
Exactly
different layers.
Right. Now, while I do like the scarf, that guy, he was chunky. The guy on the right, not chunky. You know why? Livia helped me get my weight down. It was as easy as could be. And I want to say something incredibly important about this that I'm sure the folks who have lost weight from PD have learned as well. And that is, this is not a diet. It's a lifestyle change, but it's a positive one. It's a weight control center, which is going to help you not only drop those pounds, but keep them off. And right now, if you contact them and ask for the Judd from Score North offer, you're going to get 50% off the program. 50% off the program to feel great and look good going into spring. 855-GO-LIVIA, livia.com, LIVEA.com. Be the latest from the Purple Daily family to find out that the new you're going to like.
And a shout out to our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company. I was on a Zoom call with our friends at Federated yesterday. We got something fun in the works for later on this year with them, a little content project. But they have been helping businesses for over 100 years, based in Owatonna, Minnesota. They value face-to-face relationships. They value the long haul, the long vision. And it's like having a great offensive line for your business, someone just looking out on the horizon as you navigate the waters of running a business. Federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours.
I want a mock!
All right, boys. From one of our favorite mock draft websites, we have a fresh new mock from draftblaster.com.
Draft Blaster.
The thinking man's guide to the draft. Draftblaster.com.
I've never understood how Draft Blaster and the Thinking Man's Guide go hand in hand.
Draft Blaster is a real thing, yes, and we have rolled up here on their newest iteration. I don't think they have trades here, but we'll go through it together and find out. Number 1, to the Chicago Bears, Will Anderson Jr., edge rusher, Alabama.
Okay.
The Texans take Bryce Young, quarterback, Alabama, first quarterback off the board. Then Jalen Carter, the Georgia defensive lineman, goes to the Cardinals. Colts step up to the quarterback table and take C.J. Stroud from Ohio State. The Seahawks, at the number 5 pick, take that Peter Skoronski, the tackle from Northwestern. Let's skip around here. Let's see here. Will Levis, the Kentucky quarterback, going to the Panthers at 9. So that's the 3rd quarterback off the board. First receiver goes to the Titans at 11. Jordan Addison from USC. And now we have a little run on receivers. Quentin Johnston goes to the Texans at 12. So the Texans adding nice little first 2 picks for the Texans. Bryce Young and then Quentin Johnston.
Very nice.
From TCU. And then Jackson Smith-Njigba from Ohio State is the 3rd receiver off the board of the Patriots at 14. The tight end from Notre Dame, Michael Mayer, to the Packers at 15. And then we get Anthony Richardson, the 4th quarterback off the board of the Commanders at 16. Let's scroll down here.
Commanders will screw that one up.
Ooh. This is a new one. The number 23 pick to the Minnesota Vikings. Out of the University of Ski-U-Ma, row the boat, go Gophers.
John Michael Schmitz.
John Michael Schmitz
wow.
as the new starting center.
I want him. Like, I think he's really good, and I think he's going to be a good pro.
Dude.
But can you imagine the reaction if the Vikings use another first-round pick on a center?
Well,
I don't think it'd be as bad.
I think people would be excited because he's a really good local player.
Yep.
And he helps solve a position of need because Bradbury is a free agent. And let me ask you this. How much do you guys trust a contract extension for Bradbury, knowing that he has back issues and knowing that 3 of his 4 seasons in the league were atrocious?
I don't at all. But I have sniffed around on John Michael Schmitz. I've done some insiding, and I think he's probably a 2nd-round pick. This would be a tremendous reach.
I have also done some insiding on John Michael Schmitz. And
But have you sniffed around?
Yes. Yes, I have.
Declan, that's positively creepy.
Former, recently retired NFL offensive lineman rave about John Michael Schmitz.
I love him.
Multiple former NFL offensive linemen close to the situation.
Who might hang out together?
Rave about John
Wait,
Michael
have you been
Schmitz.
making a lot of different phone calls, or did you have them on one Zoom or one StreamYard
I
room?
cannot say for sure.
I love him.
Let's go to the data here. So, well, I'll give you the written piece here from draftblaster.com. It's center full stop for the Vikings here. Even though this team needs to put in a new defense, probably, they have to get that center position stabilized, and the obvious answer is right down the road.
I want a mock.
Okay. So John Michael Schmitz, according to Pro Football Focus, which, yes, they do grade all of the college players as well. So there were, let's see here, boys. I think there were here it is, 150 qualified centers in Division I college football. 150. John Michael Schmitz was the number one graded center in the country.
Mm-hmm.
In pass protection, he allowed only 8 pressures in 12 games, only 2 sacks. That's pretty damn good. And he was the highest graded run blocker. So he's a road grader in the run blocking game here. I mean, it's not like a premium position that you would look to draft in the first round, but it's pretty damn good.
I think Kwesi would 100 times out of 100 with his philosophy on drafts and stocks and trying to marry them together. I think he would trade backwards before he would take a center in the first round.
I wonder if you could trade backwards and still get your center.
You could. Well, I think John Michael Schmitz is going to go second round, maybe very late first, but I think he's more of a second round guy.
I could see that. I could see that. It wouldn't bother me that much because, again, you're looking good. If you had franchise left tackle, franchise right tackle for about 4 or 5 more years, and franchise center all shored up, whether it's Kirk Cousins or anybody else that would come in after Kirk Cousins, and you got the weapons, it just feels like your offense is kind of ready to rock for like a 5 or 6 year window at that point. We'll see.
What's your best guess right now? Who do you think opening day of 2023 is the number 2 receiver? Outside guy who's not here in the draft, off the roster currently, guy didn't play much.
I think if there were like betting odds on this, I would say KJ Osborne is most likely to be your number 2.
Okay.
I'll admit I haven't done my super deep free agency dive yet, but free agency is a tough path because usually like the best wide receivers aren't available.
Yes.
And anyone else would be like older and expensive.
Yes.
Right.
So I feel like it's either going to be someone that you draft or it's going to be KJ Osborne to start the season, and maybe they like Jalen Naylor like as the season progresses. But really, the answer to your question is TJ Hawkinson's your number 2 wide receiver.
Well, who's going to take the top off? That's my question.
Jalen Naylor.
No,
Jalen Naylor did it in college.
I don't think Osborne. I think if Osborne was going to take the top off, he would have taken the top off way more in the second half of the season.
Yeah.
And he didn't.
And he would have made his move by now.
He's a 3. I think that they deem him as a 3. But the next step for Jefferson is not for him to improve. It's for him to have a Robin so that he can be, so that teams can't just shut him down.
Yeah.
There has to be a price to be paid if you're going to shut him down.
Yep, I agree.
And that price is your life on defense.
So there's your mock from draftblaster.com. It's time now, gentlemen, for the random Viking of the week here on Purple Daily, presented by our friends at Finch Home Solutions. Judd.
Exactly right. It only takes one call to my friends at Finch Home Solutions and Corey to get any electrical issues in your home solved. In fact, let's take Sports Dad. Let's take Judd as an example, because you know what? He's got some electrical issues. And you know who can't fix those and who shouldn't go near them? That's right, Sports Dad. So Cody is coming to my house to do some work on outlets, to do some work on lights that are downstairs in my basement that aren't working. He's going to fix those things. And as I've been talking about, the most important thing is he came out to to give me an estimate. And instead of like talking above my head, which he easily could have done, and telling me what was wrong and how it was going to be expensive, he explained it to me. He checked everything. He told me what was the safest solution. And you know what? It's not going to break the bank because you can trust Finch. Now, I want you to have the same experience with Finch, finchhomesolutions.com, or you can call them 612-357-2604, 612-357-2604, finchhomesolutions.com. Cody and his team are going to do the type of work that's going to make you say, I have now found my electrician. This is my guy. I can trust him. Finch Home Solutions.
All right, dudes. Declan is in the driver's seat again this week for Random Viking of the Week. Declan and I teaming up against Judd. It hasn't gone very well. We're down 44-26 all time. But we did correctly nail Chad Beebe last week with me giving the clues and Declan correctly guessing. A few other recent Random Vikings of the Week that have come off the board: Jerome Simpson, Kadre Ismail, Greg Camarillo, Mediu Williams, and Marcus Robinson. So Declan's got the clues here. He's going to throw some clues out to us. We get up to 3 incorrect guesses each. And we can ask him questions, but he can refuse to answer if you want.
That's right. That's right. All right.
That's right.
Our should tell me.
That's right.
This Random Viking of the Week. We'll start with this one here. This Random Viking of the Week played in 151 NFL games. Got a guess there already, Judd? You pontificating a little bit? Is everything okay?
No. Go ahead.
I think I know it.
Do it.
One more clue. Just kidding.
Do it.
This Random Viking of the Week hails from River Rogue, Michigan.
River Rogue?
Yeah. In college, this Random Viking of the Week was the Motor City Bowl MVP one year and the Hula Bowl MVP the next year. Couple MVP finishes in bowl season.
Okay, some high-level bowl games there that this guy was dominating, huh?
Yeah.
Motor City Bowl?
Motor City Bowl.
All right, I'm going to take a guess.
Okay.
Chester Taylor.
Holy crap.
What?
He played in the MAC. He played in the MAC.
What?
He played with Toledo. And
I thought
the
MAC giveaway.
The MAC the MAC often goes to the Motor City Bowl.
Wow, but but a lot of players played in the MAC. That's an amazing pull.
I've been waiting for Chester Taylor. I've been thinking Chester Taylor.
I always get upset
on that.
when it gets guessed too early because I always have like other clues that I'm really excited to get to that then they don't get to be used. For example, Phil tweeted in April of 2010. New post, now that I can say his name because we know it's Chester Taylor. He says, new post. In Toby Gerhart, the Vikings may have found a suitable replacement for Chester Taylor. I was going to have it as not his name in it, but I was going to have that.
Instantly, I think both of us would have instantly guessed that one.
That's the one, yeah. And Phil was right. We thought he was. We thought Toby Gerhart was.
From Judd's first Twitter account, at Judd Zolgad, the Jets' success against the Vikings on third down is not a surprise. This is where Minnesota really misses blank, which would be Chester
we would have
Taylor.
gotten this, yeah.
Chester was a highly underrated player.
Yes.
And that on that 09 team too, third down, pass protection, just a good outlet player. Wow, nice job, Judd, just coming in hot after the third clue there.
Thank you.
Guessing Chester Taylor.
Feels
All
good.
the prep I put in, and then it gets guessed in 90 seconds.
It's always a little demoralizing. Yeah.
It is.
I'm sorry
It is a little
to have ruined your day of clues.
You know? Signed multi-year contracts. That was another clue.
Went to the Bears.
He did. Was that his last stop?
He had a little bit of a cup of coffee with
Cardinals.
Arizona in 2011.
Okay.
How much facts do you know about Chester Taylor, Judd? This is honestly impressive.
Chester Taylor's a very interesting guy. He was I really liked him as a player. He was a very odd dude, in my opinion. He also had, he also has the weird, I guess it's happenstance. Chester Taylor was on the Baltimore Ravens as the backup to Jamal Lewis when Jamal I believe Jamal established the all-time rushing single game record. He then was the backup to Adrian Peterson 2 years after when Adrian set that too. So he was on, he was basically on the last two teams, because I think that mark still stands today by Adrian, on the last two teams where a guy rushed for an NFL record single game total.
And how about this too? So he was a great sport for the Vikings because they signed him in 2006 coming out of Baltimore, and he got his first starting gig. He had that 95-yard run against the Seahawks that year. He ran for 1,200 yards, 6 touchdowns. He caught 42 passes out of the backfield. He was a 3-down back, a really good running back for the Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
Breakout season. And then they draft Adrian Peterson in the next draft. And everyone was kind of like, whoa, okay, all right. I mean, I guess, yeah, let's go. And so he then had to take that back out. He started the first few games, and then it became Adrian Peterson's team. And he stuck around for 3 years. Okay, I'm making some money. I'll keep being a backup. He didn't really put up a fuss or anything, and he played a key role on some good teams.
Nope. I still recall when he left the locker room after the 2006 season. And if you look at his carries, he just got abused. And he was like
303 carries that season.
And he was basically like, thank God the off season is here. And I always thought that he was like, I got a taste of starting. You know what? These backup roles aren't bad. And plus he blocked and caught passes. I mean, he did make up for a lot of the things that Peterson couldn't do.
Yeah. So, all right, Chester Taylor, the random Viking of the week here.
Wow.
It's a wrap.
I'm sorry, Dex. I almost feel bad now. You're like,
you have to go back to the drawing board and find some tougher clues, I guess, for Judd, who's been dominating this game.
Great job
for the last
Judd.
Couple of years. All right, we got to go over on Mackie and Judd. Some reckless Viking speculation today. We'll get our friend Doogie on for some inside information about Minnesota sports teams. We'll see you guys here for Feedback Friday tomorrow.